Welcome to the Sports Card Lessons Podcast. I'm your host, Big Ken. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on a streaming service, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. You'll be notified whenever I drop any new content. Welcome. Thanks for being here. I hope everybody had a great weekend. I know I did. It was nice to finish off the weekend with a Father's Day cookout with family. And here we are Monday morning, refreshed, right back at it. I did two shows this weekend. I walked one on Saturday, and I set up at one on Sunday. And I have to say, before I jump into it, we just have some great local monthly shows here in Connecticut. I was thinking about that, or I have been thinking about that. I mean, it's just nice to have shows to go to, but we really have a great hobby community here in Connecticut. We have the Enfield show, the Plainville show, the New Britain show. There was a show yesterday in, I think, Norwalk down that way. I go to the Trumbull show, and they all kind of, they all make sure that for the most part they're not stepping on each other. And you go there, and the places are packed, the quality cards there, the dealers. It's just a great community to just be able to just go out, hang out. Like a lot of times you say, like, I'm gonna go somewhere, go do something, but it becomes more about the cards, right? You're going out there, it's the community. Sometimes you go to these shows, you don't buy anything, but you see people, you have great conversation, you're looking at new cards, you're hearing the stories, you're keeping up with what's going on in the hobby. It's just a great community, and it's just so lucky to have all the people and the shows in this community here in Connecticut. And I know it's a small state, it's one of the smaller states, so I mean, I don't know how that works in other states, around the country. If people have that same tight knit community, like I say, a state like Florida or Texas that's so big, like you're probably, you know, don't see people from, from your state at these local shows, or get up to meet up with people. Where here in Connecticut, we're an hour drive from any one of these shows, an hour or less, I should say. You know what? For me, I'm an hour or less because I'm right in the center. So any direction I go, I'm less than an hour to any show. But I just feel lucky and blessed. Uh, I went to the Plainville show Saturday morning. Went to walk that show. I pulled in, right? Place is packed, parking lot's packed, trying to find a parking spot. It's going to be good. It's always a busy show. Head inside. Like I said, usual faces, usual dealers there. There's some new deal, it's funny. You want to say there's a new dealer, but there's just new people set up. The dealers, I think I know every dealer, in this area. So some of them are set up at a different show, and all of a sudden you see them like, hey, wow, you got a table over here today, right? Because I think it was one of those weekends, those Father's Day weekends that, people want to, and the weather's getting nice too, right? People want to, go away, go camping, go to the beach, go, whatever. And there's graduations starting to happen now. There are a lot of parties, a lot of things going on. So you're going to see, some new faces, for me at a lot of these places. The hottest topic of conversation the whole weekend, has been this national buzz. Everyone losing their tables, who to call, for a pop-up show. Obviously, I'm creating content. I dropped an episode, on Wednesday, and I talked about, losing my spot and jumping in and getting a spot at the SoCo Expo. So people asking me about that show. There's another after-hours show that's happening out there. This is, where the frenzy is right now, leading into it, where, it was not so many people, most people had their tables planned in years past, and now everybody's lost their place out there. So everybody's, kind of, trying to figure out what they're going to do. And even if they're going to go, And I know last week when I got the news and I made some calls, the two shows that I know, I'm going to call them pop-up shows. They're after-hours shows. The shows that I know, they still had tables available, and I chose the SoCo because there's a lot of soccer there, and I'm going to be selling women's soccer. But I think those tables, right, those places now are starting to get sold out because people don't want to miss it. People still want to go to the National. I understand that. I'm one of those people. I still want to go out there. I still want to go because it is the hobby. It is part of the hobby. It's part of the community. And there's so many people from around the country that I talk to, that I've met through the years, and I only see them at the National. I want to be there. I want to go. So I'm still going to go, right? But I'm going to be set up somewhere else. It's going to be a different experience for me. I'm going to be walking the show this time. It's going to be a much different experience for me. So people the same way, right? They want to go. They're trying to figure out, like, am I going to be doing trade nights? Am I going to be, trying to get tables or go set up at these after-hour shows that are setting up? And I know the National just announced 3 trade nights, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And I'm sure that's just competing with all these after-hour shows, because the after-hour shows are running the same nights, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right? So the last couple of years, the trade night was one night, right, for the National. Now it's going to be 3 nights. And I think these after hour shows have the decency to be set up in the evenings, 6 to midnight, after when the National is closed for the day, the convention center is closed for the day. And then they come up, and now there's a trade night for 3 nights. So it's going to be interesting. It's definitely going to be an interest. There's a new look this year. It's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out, and where the crowds end up. Things are getting spicy, right? They're starting to heat up a little bit. I heard from one person that someone they know who has a booth at the National that only ever used the table and obviously sold off the rest. Now they need to man their whole booth this year. So they're looking for singles boxes and inventory, cheap inventory that they can fill up the tables with, right? Because twofold on that. One, I say cheap inventory because they don't think they can watch everything, and they don't want to put anything expensive out there. There's this whole thing about how many people can even be in the booth, right? And who can you get to come help you man your booth? And now it's only 2 people in the booth or something like that. So I think that's going to be the norm for a lot of those tables out there, looking for inventory just to spread out their inventory, but also be able to keep an eye on it, to be able to man every part of it, because there's going to be a lot of people walking that show, a lot of people walking. I think the people who prepared, right, who man their own booth all year and who are prepared, I think they're going to do very well out there, right? Supply and demand. This weekend, it was great to see football out in abundance. This weekend show, people have been trying to buy it, and everybody, including myself, has just been putting out the low end stuff, right? But this weekend, the nicer stuff, I'm not gonna say high end stuff, the nicer stuff starting to come out now. But people pretty firm on their prices, which you're my listening to this, I'm pretty much the same way. At this point, if you're going to put it out this early, you need to be firm, not let it go too cheap, right? For that period of time, right? It was all 80%. 80%. Everybody's buying at 80%. Now it's 90% or 90. It's whatever somebody told them the repackers were going to pay. Repackers paying 95%. Oh, that's what I'm selling for now. 95%. No, I don't have to sell to you. I'm going to find a repacker. They're going to buy it for 95%. Right. Which that mentality makes it harder for everybody to buy. It makes it harder for dealers to buy, to be able to set up at shows. If the margins are becoming that slim. And I've been at a number of the bigger shows where those repackers are in there before the show even opens, right? So it's a little tough to I see it from both ends, right? I understand from one end and I understand from the other, being selling the cards too. Hey, I'd rather sell my stuff for 95% too, right? Um, we could forget about those dark 80% days. But on the opposite end of that, if it's early, right? And you think that these cards have the ability to go up 10 or 20% in the next month or two, then 90% isn't so bad, right? You can buy it for 90%, throw it in your case, up the price 20%, and then hopefully the market will make it there. Or you could be firm. I talked about having, it depends on your card too, right? I had that Stroud Kaboom PSA 9. I never expected to sell it, but I just told everybody, look, this is the price, and I'm firm on it because that's what I need to get. I'm not going to lose on it. I'd rather keep it than lose on it. And somebody felt that card was going to go up, and they bought it at my price. So if you feel like stuff is going to go up, then 90% is really not a bad, percentage to buy a card, right? But if you're on the opposite side of that and you think, hey, there's so many cards out there, PSA, is put all these specials on, all these cards are coming back, the market's going to be flooded, and as soon as the football hits the market, the prices are going to start to go down because there's so many of the same cards out there. There's just, the pop count's going to be so high. If you're on that end, then 90% is not good. Even 80% might not be good, right? Unless it's a quick fast flip. So that's why this time of year, and I've talked about it all year, right? I'm not outright buying football this time of year at comps. I'll take my chances and buy them, December, January, February, March. It's worked out for me. This is the third year right now. And the unless injury, but when you get like a veteran quarterback out there like Mahomes or Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow, right? Things like that. You know, the prices don't fluctuate all that much. They drop down 10-15%, they go up 10-15%, unless there's this big hype or a big push or some news on somebody that forces their cars to go up. So that's almost like a safe stock, right? It's going to go down, you buy it down, you sell it up, you pull that percentage in. Well, the big swings, right, are in the prospecting, right? Right now they're in the Strouds, the Richardsons, the Levis, right? These are where the big swings are. They could swing way up or they swing way down and then they could swing down and back up again, right? I mean, you have no idea. This time, it's just such a funny time of year. You just you watch the market, you try to sell them, what makes sense to you. And to me, I don't need to get rich on it, right? I say this all the time. As long as I can make the profit on it, I'm happy. I like to push the envelope just a little bit, but not too much. Not too much. I'm okay, if I'm into something at $50 or $60 and I sell it for $90 and all of a sudden it went up to 110 or 100. I'm okay with that. I'm okay. That's fine. I'm glad somebody else on the other end did well on that, and they'll come back and look to buy from me again, right? That type of thing. But I don't need to hold out because I was that holdout, for the Mac Joneses and cards like, and it just and it that swung the wrong way so fast that you're left standing there like, what just happened with the prices on these cards, right? So the Zach Wilsons, the Mac Jones, yeah. But always, this time of year, I won't pay, full comps on a card. I'm not going to pay very strong on a card, all cash, but I'm always willing to trade up with some of my lower end stuff, add some cash and grab a bigger card. Perfect example. I had a pickup at the Plainville show. I picked up, and again, if you're on YouTube, I'll hold this up. It's a 2020 Optic Justin Herbert Hollow PSA 10. Picked this card up, and I traded some singles that I had won in breaks and added cash on top of that. Um, This card, right? PSA 10, Justin Herbert, rookie hollow, right? Is going to be much easier for me to sell than some singles, right? Some singles cards that I won in a break. And I've done this a number of times, and I'm okay. I'm okay to take a bit of a hit on the singles, the singles wise, to get up to, you know, a card that's going to be more liquid. If I'm moving into a rookie quarterback PSA 10, when it comes to it, right, I don't need to be at comps on singles that I won in a break, right, and I don't need to, um, even if it was PSA 9 cards too to move up to that, which this situation it wasn't, but I'm happy to do that. Um, and this card, right, this card here, PSA 10, this has the ability to go up in value depending on hyper performance. It certainly could come down too, right? But it's going to be an easier card for me to move. And when I say an easier card, like the comp wise on this card, right? The comp is the comp. We're going to look it up. There's a pop count on it, right? But when I'm pulling out these singles, and they're nice cards, don't get me wrong. One of them was a case hit, right? You're pulling out these singles that you're getting from Optic and Clearly and things like that. What what are the prices on those? Well, they fluctuate all over. Now we're dealing with a raw card. I mean, one there was none of those graded yet, but some will come back graded, right? And could the card go up? Yes. Could it go down? Yes. But what's it selling for now? They've just hit the market, right? Their prices are all over. One of the cards that I traded up, the comps were anywhere from 160 to 220, right? I mean that's a huge swing on that card right there. But you get into a card like this, graded PSA 10. This is an easy sale. This card is an easy sale, easy comps. We know the comp. There's We're just watching the market on this. We're not basing the card on being raw and what all the other raw sold, because when a card's sold raw, like a lot of times we're just looking at the comps, but you don't know. Sometimes it says read and it says, oh, there's a scratch on the back, or there's a bad print line, or there's a soft corner on it. Like when you're at a show going through, you're not going through reading descriptions of you're just looking at what was sold on that versus a PSA 10. And this card sells, this card is selling, right? I mean, that's what it is. Um, and I've been selling a lot of singles this year that I got through breaks. For the last, I picked up these all in the last 4 or 5 months, and probably the last well, at least 3 shows that I've set up at. I've been trying to sell all these cards, and they're hard to sell. I mean, these singles aren't easy sell. Everybody wants them way under comps. And you want to look at them to see if they're going to grade, and I look at them too to grade, right? So some people are serial graders; they will grade everything, right, and just hope for the best. But I really looking at the percentages of cards that I'm getting, and I'm saying, look, if I'm sending out 30 or 35 cards to PSA, I'm getting back like 10 or 12 PSA 10s. So I don't know if it's worth sending these cards in. And I've told this to people because they're like, well, you've been grading. Why wouldn't you send these in the grade? I just don't think it's worth for me to send them in and pay the grading and come back. And if they come back a 9, then I basically lost money on the card. If it doesn't gem, I'm going to lose money on the card. Now, if I'm sending out and I know, like, look, if I can get these 9 or 10 PSA 10s, they're going to cover the grading in, and it doesn't matter if these ones 9. Well, that's one thing. But now I'm getting later in the year, I'm being way more selective of what I'm sending in to grade. Earlier in the year, I probably would have sent, back in January, I would have half these cards I would have sent to grading. But now it's getting later in the year. I don't want to have these cards out at grading, waiting for them to come back, and something bad happens and the car is worth even less than when I sent it in. So this time of year, I'm happy just to move the singles the way they are, and tell people, look, take them out. You can take them right out of the one touch. Get your magnifying, do what you need to do. I mean, a lot of the cards look good, but if there's like one little thing on it, I it makes me nervous. And even when it looks perfect, it makes me nervous, right? There's some card I had two identical cards I sent in that they both looked absolutely perfect, right? And I thought to myself, I made a mistake sending them both together. I sent both cards in. One comes back a 9, one comes back a 10. But if you looked at these cards going in, they were identical. They looked perfect. There was nothing anywhere I could see on, and I almost think it's just the mentality of them and be like, yeah, we can't give him 2 10s. We're just going to give him 1 10 and 1 9. Maybe if he wants, he can crack this one and send it back, and then we'll give him a 10. So, I'm always happy too to be able to trade up, you know, on any of this raw stuff. Always happy to be able to trade up and out of it, because it's not an easy sell, and you end up taking a lot less for it than what you even expected, unless it's a Richardson or a Stroud. Everything else is, you're hoping that people are interested in those cards, right? And they weren't the card when you bought into the break. They weren't the cards that you wanted to get, but they were on the team. And then all of a sudden, you get the autograph of somebody that it's on the same team, but it wasn't the card you wanted, right? Um, I used to, I was thinking about, and I went back and looked at some episodes from a year ago, and then a year ago, before that too. And I like to do that a lot, just to see the state of, and sometimes I just do it. Like I make notes. I have episode notes. Sometimes I just go back and read the notes too. But a couple 2 years ago, I was talking about trading up, right? And last year I was talking about trading up. Um, and this year, I'm in my mind, I'm like, well, if I'm trading up, I want to trade up into these $300 to $500 cards. Like that to me, this year is the sweet spot. For me, not for the hobby, but for me, for what Big Ken is doing, those $300 to $500 cards are for me the sweet spot. And especially if I'm getting into these rookie, PSA 10s, because I think they're the easiest sales in my case. But then I go back a year ago and talking about, trading into these $700 to $1,200 cards, right? So using these $300 to $500 cards that I'm going after now, using those cards to trade up into the $700 to $1,200 cards, right? And talking about them being those last year, right before the national, being going to be the easiest sales in my case, right? And the year before, I was using the $700 to $1,200 cards to trade up into the 18 to 20, 22, $2,400 cards. So it's interesting how my pattern has reversed, right? Or most people say, well, you want to keep moving up. You want to get the bigger cards and just keep trading up into something bigger and bigger. But for what I'm doing, for what makes sense, this year, right? It's the $300 to $500 cards. I don't know about next year. I don't know it really, the hobby, where the hobby is and how I view the hobby, and what I see happening out there is what's going to change. But right now it's been a pattern of coming down, like almost to those low $2,000 cards, to the 1,500, the 1,200s last year, right? Now to the $300 to $500 cards this year. I mean, I don't know if I keep going, I'm going to be selling singles next year. I won't even have graded cards, or I'll be doing $100 graded cards, right? And I don't know if that's correction too in the hobby, like a lot of the price is coming down. But it's really interesting, like for me to have this and to go back and be able to pull notes out from a year ago to see where we were a year ago and 2 years ago and coming up to now. Sunday, I set up at the local New Britain show, the Father's Day edition. Dealers that, set up at this hobby, there were less of them. And obviously, it's Father's Day. And I knew a few of them. And I said, look, I just can't do it for Father's Day. I can't, we have a whole day planned. And so there were less dealers. right? But the same attendance, right? There were the same amount of people who show up to the show. So for dealers like me who showed up and set up, right, it was a win, right? There was a lot of people in the room, a lot of people walking, even though there were less dealers. We had the same amount of people walking. I think even maybe more. I think even more. Some of the fathers got a green light to be able to go out and hang out at a card show on Father's Day in the morning. I took an extra table because I've been trying to get all my singles together and just start moving them, right? Kind of like a big sale on them. I have a lot of boxes, I have 9 5-row boxes of all different types of singles and different sports. So I bought an extra table. I knew there'd be extra tables, and I just put all those boxes out there. So every card is $1. Just, you know, boxes that I've been building and building and building. Though they certainly paid for their own table, and there'll be plenty to go back. And I think that's going to be, moving forward. I think I might just grab an extra table and just keep putting those boxes out there just to try to sell those cards, because people who are making sets, there's a lot of great cards, and they're all penny sleeved and top loaded, right? And people who are making sets and looking for, singles like that. It's certainly a one-stop shopping for them. And of course, in my regular cases, I had a bunch of singles and lower end slabs, holding the higher end stuff out until this weekend when I go down to Chantilly for the Chantilly show, is when I'll break out all that football. Steady crowd all day. A lot of people here also had football, firm on their prices. I had one pickup from the show from a dealer who actually set up next to me, a younger kid. Knowing I was heading to Chantilly this weekend, I saw Lamar Jackson, rookie in his case, and I said, "Hey, first thing in the morning before the show even started, what are you looking to get on that?" He gave me the price, said he's pretty firm on it. I understood. So as we got to the end of the day, I was starting to pack up. One of his friends came over, another dealer, another guy that was set up, and said, "Hey, if you're interested in this Lamar, I could give you a really good deal on it." The guy's like, I like it, but I'm all set for today. Maybe I'll talk to you during the week or something. So I said, "Well, what's the deal? Give me the deal. I'm interested in that card." So he came down $30 off his price, which I felt, for me, was worth it for me to jump in for a quick flip. So I bought the card. And again, I'm going to be at Chantilly this weekend. I think it's going to be a very easy sale. It is a 2018 Lamar Jackson, holding it up. Lamar Jackson Green Velocity PSA 10. Nice card. And again, it's within that range of what I think is a sweet spot for cards. The dollar amount that people are buying. And I think it works out too for the I'm going to come back. I'm going to say it on the repackers too, because I think a lot of these cards like this are what they want to put in these, in their and the repacks, right? I just think that's why I think these cards are so popular right now too. It's these PSA 10s that everybody loves, right? Even though the pop count is high on them. You went to a show, you wouldn't. It's funny, if you went to a show, you may or may not. It depends on what your collection is. You may go look in the cases and be like, "Oh yeah, that's a nice card." But then if you jump into a break, or they rip open a pouch and you're getting a Lamar Jackson rookie PSA 10 or a Justin Herbert hollow PSA 10, you're excited. You're like, "All right, yeah, that's a great card." Right? And I think that's the mentality of all that. So I'm happy to buy them, and again, I think they're going to be easy sells. So that's how I ended that show, and basically selling off the singles that I had at the show paid for this card. And honestly, if anybody walked up to my table and said, "Hey, will you trade these singles for this card?" 100% all day. Yes, let's do it. So it was an easy sale for me. I received some comments from a listener on YouTube that instead of responding directly, I thought I would just use as a teaching moment, right? A sports card lesson, if you will. I'm gonna read the comments, and I'm gonna talk about both of them. The first one is can't take anyone serious as a real dealer who is mainly selling women's soccer and WNBA at the biggest show of the year. So he was commenting on the last episode that I did. The two least popular sports in the hobby, LOL. Sounds like a great plan. Let's pay this huge expense just to sell cards that like 1% of people going are looking for. LOL. All right. Stupidity or genius? Stupidity or genius? I had two tables last year at the National. One table with all football and one table with all women's soccer and WNBA. I competed. I competed with everyone else in the room. 2,000 booths in Chicago to sell football. I competed with everyone else in that room. When it came to the women's soccer and the WNBA, I probably competed with 5 to 10 booths that were there. And last year in Chicago, I sold more women's cards than men's cards. After doing a social media blast on Thursday and Friday, my women's table was crowded all weekend. People were coming to find me, right? I agree on the first one to say that any other show the rest of the year that I do, soccer is a very hard sell. I won't put it out, but that's why I saved it all year for this one. I was on to something last year. And I talked about this, right, all year saying, I don't want to go out to the National and compete with everybody else in the room with my football when I can put my women's stuff out there and people will come to find me. People will come looking for me to come buy these things, right? Stupidity or genius? I to me, it's a genius, right? And it's a whole other community. It's a whole other community that I get to interact with, right? My WNBA stuff, it's in my case all year long, and it's been selling very well, right? I was talking about this last year when everybody poo-pooed it, right? But look what happened. I mean, with Caitlin Clark and everything that happened this year, right? And I have to say, I sell more. I've sold more WNBA cards that weren't Caitlin Clark, right? So it's not just Caitlin Clark. We're not just selling Caitlin Clark cards out there. There's more than Caitlin Clark cards out there. There's more than one player, right, in the NBA. So and we're saying WNBA, the Caitlin Clark cards, that her cards aren't WNBA cards aren't even out yet. Right? These are the Bowman Chrome University cards that are selling so well. So we all don't need to do and sell what everyone else is selling, right? It's okay to be different, right? That's what I love. I talk about this all the time. I want to be buying when people are selling. I want to be selling when people are buying. I want to zig when people are zagging, right? It's what I do. It's what I like to do, right? And it works for me. I'm good at it. The second comment he said, I will say that a few of those people I know that have gotten their tables taken away from them have only been doing cards for a few years, including you, Ken. So at the same time, it's like you shouldn't have been lucky to have table space in the first place. Why are you guys, and he said social, but I know he meant special. Why are you guys more special than people who've been waiting for years for space? Welcome back to normal, folks. Personally, I've seen your inventory and it's not national worthy anyways. So it's not luck, and I'm not any more special than you or anyone else in the hobby, right? I participate in the hobby. I'm at shows every weekend. I'm meeting people. I'm making friends. I'm creating content weekly. I become part of many hobby close-knit groups. I live in this community. If you get involved, there's lots of great opportunities out there in the hobby. That's what happened to me. How do you think I end up with these tables at the booth? I ended up at a whole booth at the National, or half a booth at the National last year. How do you think that happened? I think that happens by me sitting home saying, like, I submitted my name for a booth and I'm on a waiting list. I've done that too. I've been on a waiting list for the National for the last 4 years, right? So, or actually 3 years. It wasn't 4 years ago. But I get involved. I'm out there. I'm communicating with people. I'm part of this community. I'm not special. Do you think other people, and you even said it yourself, like, why did people, they should have been lucky to get it. I don't believe in luck. I don't believe in luck. I really think this has a lot to do with your connections in the hobby. Whether you're in the hobby for a month, a year, or 30 years, if you go out and make the right connections, good things happen. It's not luck. Good things happen to those people. And the biggest question here, what makes national worthy inventory? You always hear people say, if you're looking for a card and you can't find it anywhere else, go to the National. It will be there. What does it matter if that card is $1 or $1 million? I'm not sure how anyone can decide what inventory and whose inventory is national worthy. I could safely say there's more $1 cards sold at the National than $10,000 cards, $20,000 cards, or $30,000 cards. And that's it. That's all I've got for you today. I am traveling this week. I am going to be, I'm not going to do a Thursday. There'll be no Thursday episode. And I will be in Chantilly Friday and Saturday next week. So if you were there, if you were in Chantilly, message me, come find me, come say hello. And I'll be back next Monday with a brand new episode recapping Chantilly. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And if you like what you hear, please definitely subscribe. And most importantly, tell a friend and spread the word. And until next time, take care of yourselves and everyone around you.